There are not many running backs left on the waiver wire that we're excited about. It's starting to get pretty dank. There are not many running backs switching over roles, getting injured this season, especially in the back half of the season, to really cause an influx in the waiver wire. But we did catch some news on practice reports on Wednesday about Damen Pierce, which has a lot of people intrigued about Devin Singletary, whether or not he'll be stepping up in a much larger workload. We're going to be looking into him. We're going to look at the news, the facts, the data, and the advanced analytics today to see whether or not you need him for fantasy football. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse on the computer. Whatever you need to do to get the job done, because we're talking about the waiver wire every day. We're talking about these players every day. We're helping you set your lineups. We're helping you win trades and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. Let's look at Devin Singletary real quick. And Damen Pierce is dealing with an ankle issue right now. Objectively, we do not know how deep this is. We don't know if this is just a rest day and it's just a little sore, or if there's something here. So really, we got to watch the news. We don't need to be too aggressive with this right now. We need to just watch the news and just chill and see what happens with Damen Pierce. There's still a chance he's there on Sunday. There's a chance he's going to be on the field. And you just have to pay attention to the practice reports. Look at Thursday's reports later today. Look at Friday. Watch and see what happens. There's been times where players missed Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, do a little bit on Friday, and next thing you know, they're playing a little bit to some capacity. So that's something you want to pay attention to. But a lot of people have questions about Devin Singletary, and we got to look into that. First off, Devin Singletary hasn't been too productive in a fantasy sense this year, but his snap share has been increasing 40, 54, 29, 35, 39. So it has been upping these last few weeks. He's been stealing touches from Pierce. He's been getting some opportunities. He's really creating a headache at this running back depth chart with the Houston Texans here, which is really hard to peg for fantasy when we look at these two running backs, because they're not getting enough workload to really sustain fantasy production on a consistent basis. So we're looking at these running backs every week and just hoping they cross the goal line, because we're also not getting much targets going to the running backs in this offense. Looking at Devin Singletary historically, though, 2022, you got some RB1 weeks. You got some double-digit PPR fantasy performances. He had a good run at the end of 2021. Still some good weeks. A lot of down weeks as well. Very off and on. Just how he's used in that Bills offense back in the day. But still a player that you can hang your hat on. You can put out there as an NFL coach and know that he's reliable. Good in pass pro for his size, but you can also wheel him out as a receiver out of the backfield. Decent between the tackles for his size. Good outside the tackles for his size. He's a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's kind of why you see the volatility here. That's why you're seeing him kick around the NFL. Looking at his production, we don't have any 1,000-yard seasons to his name, but still decently productive. His best year, 870 yards, 7 touchdowns. In the receiving department, 40 balls caught is his high end. 228 yards, 280 yards is his high end on receiving yardage. Again, you can use him a little bit in the passing game. You can use him a little bit in the run game. He's very dynamic in that department where you can use his versatility to really help you out in a pinch there, because the defense don't know whether you're going to run it, you're passing it, or what's going on, because when you put him out on the field, you're not really going to tip your hat, because he can do a little bit of everything, which is good for an NFL team. This year, the opportunities haven't been there because Damen Pierce, because this offense has been throwing it a lot to the wide receivers, especially earlier this season. Things have slowed down over these last few weeks. We're running a lot less plays. We'll get to that later in the video. But 7 opportunities, 5, 11, 8, 1, 14, 12. We're seeing a little bit of a ramp up here lately, but it's also a small sample. We've had some weird game scripts lately, so really want to see this one through. With Damen Pierce having an ankle injury and he's out, expect that to increase. Expect that to be in double digits easily for him. And whether or not he can capitalize on that is a different story. But looking at the difference between him and Damen Pierce over the last 3 weeks, looking back at the last 3 weeks or last 4 weeks in terms of fantasy production and workload, versus the whole season. It's a little bit stickier because the NFL game is very volatile. You got injuries, which create big changes and variables with teams. The Texans have been dealing with some injuries on the offensive line, but snaps per game, 26 to 24, snap share 44 to 41, touches 15 to 8. So Pierce does get more touches between the tackles. Routes though, 3 to 12. Pierce doesn't get used in the passing game. He's barely out there when it comes time to throw the ball. He's not running many routes out there to get that opportunity, to get that target. He's getting 1 target per game. Singletary's getting 5, even though he's running a little bit less snaps. Target share is bad for both running backs, 6 and 1%. Opportunity share, 55 to 32. So if Pierce is out, expect Devin Singletary to get his routes. It'll probably be about the same. Targets will probably be about the same. A little bit more rushing opportunities here. Probably about a 55 to 60% opportunity share in the offense. And that could equate to fantasy points. Some production. Is it high end? Probably not, especially with the matchups we're looking at him against going forward. But again, if you need a running back and you need touches, that might be an indicator of a guy that you may want to look at. Damen Pierce, though, hasn't been productive, hasn't been living up to what we saw out of him last year. We have 2 games of over double-digit PPR fantasy points, and that's it. Lately, 4, 3, 9, then 11, 14, 5, 6. So not the greatest year out of Damen Pierce. Barely used in the passing game. We need him to cross the goal line. We're not doing that because our production's coming with the wide receivers and the tight end. That is what's happening here in the Houston offense. Also, we're slowing things down a little bit. Devin Singletary, when you see a running back like this with those type of athletic specs and they're able to hang around the league, he was drafted in 2019, 3rd round pick. He's able to hang around the league. Just by those clues alone, lets you know he's a nuanced player. He's good between the tackles because he's got good vision. He's okay in pass blocking, okay as a receiver, does all the little things well, is a guy coaches like. And then you look, he's got some production, some 800-yard seasons. Then you look at his size-adjusted athleticism, which is around 13th percentile, and you're like, wow, how's he doing it? And it's because he's good. He's efficient, good vision, very assertive, does things well, does what the coaches ask for, runs the play the way it's called. He does all the little things, and coaches love that. That's why he's getting a lot of snaps, but not that many opportunities because Damen Pierce is getting the work between the tackles. Both running backs haven't been super efficient. 3.7 yards per carry for Singletary, 3 for Pierce, and this team's starting to run at a slower pace. At the start of the season, we were running about 80 plays per game. The average from the start of the season to now has dipped down to 67 plays per game. We've had some weird game scripts. We're running 38 pass plays per game. Prior to that, it was above 40, 29 run plays per game. So we have a slower paced offense recently, mainly due to some issues with the team here, especially at the offensive line. But Damen Pierce, Devin Singletary, they are not getting it done in the rushing department. That's really stifling fantasy production. They're also not getting much work in the passing game. They're throwing it deep. They need to cash in on those wide receivers. And some of these matchups have been up and down. Damen Pierce has 109 rushing attempts on the season and a touchdown. So if he's out a game or two, a lot of that's going to go to Singletary. Mike Boone's got 3 rushing attempts. Dare's got 2. So again, Singletary's going to step up and get those touches. So you'll be looking at him for touches if Pierce is out. Looking at the schedule, it's not too great. We do not know if Pierce is even going to be out, so this is all speculation off that injury. But Tampa Bay here, 30th in the league for points allowed to running backs, 12.3 per game. That's not a good sign for Singletary, not even a good sign for Pierce. You throw more on the Buccaneers, so look for Houston to be tossing the bean around in this game, getting those air yards through the passing game. CJ Stroud going deep. They need him to be more aggressive. They need to dial back into what he was earlier in the year. Then you got the Bengals, which is a tricky situation. Week 11 is when you want to target this backfield because everyone scores fantasy points on the Cardinals. After that, it's up and down. Not too great for the running backs. So is he a buy? Is he not? Only if your team's dead at the running back position. If you're dead and you need some touches and Pierce is out, sure. Are you loving it? No. If you're setting DFS lineups and you're max entering it up and you need a cheap running back and Pierce is out to really maximize the rest of your roster, to get a lot of high price stacks, you don't need him because you're not dead at running back. You have options. There are more options with more upside on the waiver wire. May not score as many fantasy points this week, may not get as many touches, but overall, for the rest of the season, there's more upside there. The upside for this week's not that grand either. Just the touches are going to be okay if Pierce is out, and that's about it. So do you need him? More than likely not. But there are some people hurting out there. There's some people in 16-team leagues. If he's in a 16-team league, he's rostered. 14-teamers, probably iffy there. 12-teamers, there's not too many teams hurting that bad, but there's probably a couple in each league, but those teams are probably out of it. They're probably not even watching this video because they're out of it that much. But if they want to try and turn things around, maybe they can sneak by with the touches. DFS only to create a higher price lineup and using him as a cheap square. But really, you don't need him. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.